Susan grimaced slightly as she shifted on the sofa, trying to find a comfortable position. The pain in her back had worsened throughout the day, each movement sharpening the dull ache that had become a constant companion over the past few months. "Alex, could you come here for a moment?" she called out, hoping her voice sounded more casual than she felt. The last thing she wanted was for Alex to think she was helpless. Alex appeared in the doorway, his face showing concern. "What's up, Susan? Everything okay?" "It's just my back again," Susan sighed, trying to smile. "It's been killing me today, worse than usual. You know, someone at work mentioned that massages can really help with this kind of thing. Isn't that something you're learning about in your physical therapy courses?" Alex nodded, stepping into the room. "Yeah, we've actually just covered therapeutic massage techniques. I could give it a try if you want. It might help alleviate some of the tension." Susan hesitated for a moment, aware of the potential awkwardness. "Would you mind? I really don't want to impose." "No imposition at all," Alex assured her. "I need the practice, and it's good for me to apply what I'm learning. Let's set up a space where you can lie down comfortably." They arranged the living room, moving a few chairs aside and laying down a yoga mat with a towel over it for comfort. Susan, feeling a mix of relief and anxiety, changed into a more comfortable top and pants that would allow Alex better access to her back without being inappropriate. "Okay, just lie down here on your stomach, and I'll start with some basic techniques," Alex instructed, his tone professional. He warmed some lotion between his hands and began to work gently on her lower back, his hands firm yet cautious. Susan felt the initial discomfort of tight muscles being worked, but slowly the pain began to subside under Alex's skilled hands. She found herself relaxing, the tension easing not just from her back, but from her mind as well. Alex's focus was complete as he moved his hands methodically. "How's the pressure?" "Is this okay?" he asked periodically, making sure not to push too hard. "It's good, Alex. Really good," Susan managed to say, grateful for the relief and surprised at the professionalism Alex was showing. Her initial reservations about asking him for a massage were fading, replaced by appreciation for his willingness to help and his capability. As he continued, Susan felt a wave of gratitude mixed with a tinge of sadness. Gratitude for having Alex here with her, and sadness that these moments of closeness had become so rare now that he was mostly away at college. This massage, therapeutic in more ways than one, was not just easing her physical pain, but was also knitting a small patch in the fabric of their stepmother-stepson relationship, a connection strained by distance and time. As Alex finished setting up the area, Susan hesitated for a moment before speaking. "I really appreciate this, you know. Heard quite a bit about how physical therapy can work wonders for back pain." Alex smiled, positioning the pillow just right so Susan could lie down comfortably. "Yeah, it's fascinating stuff. We're learning how to target specific muscles to relieve pain and improve function. I'm glad I can use some of that knowledge to help out at home." Susan carefully positioned herself on the mat, trying to mask her discomfort. "Just promise me one thing," she added, her voice laced with a mix of humor and seriousness. "What's that?" Alex looked over as he prepared to start. "That you won't laugh if I end up groaning like an old woman," Susan joked, easing the tension a bit. Alex laughed. "No promises, but I'll try to keep a straight face. Let me know if anything feels too intense, or if you need a break." "Will do," Susan said, settling down. "I trust you, Alex. It's just been a while since anyone has seen me quite like this." Alex nodded, understanding the underlying nervousness in her voice. He poured some massage oil into his hands, warming it before applying it to Susan's lower back. We'll start with some light pressure and see how it goes from there. You let me know what feels good and what doesn't. As he began the massage, he focused on the techniques he had been taught, applying gentle but firm strokes across her back. I learned that it's important to communicate during sessions like this. Makes the whole process more effective and a lot safer. Susan relaxed under his touch, the initial discomfort giving way to a soothing sensation. You sound quite professional, Alex. Seems like you're really picking up a lot. I hope so, Alex replied. It's one thing to practice in class on classmates, and quite another to actually help someone in pain. As he worked, Susan found herself impressed with his knowledge and skill. It's nice to see you so passionate about your studies. Makes me feel a bit better about how often you're buried in those books. Yeah, it's a lot, but worth it, Alex said, shifting to work on a particularly tense spot. Especially if it means I can help family too. Susan felt the tension easing, not just in her muscles, but in the air between them. This massage, a simple act of care, was gently reshaping the way she viewed her relationship with Alex. No longer just the boy she had helped raise, but now a capable young man contributing back to her well-being. Thanks for doing this, Alex. I can't tell you how much it means to me, she murmured, feeling more relaxed than she had in weeks. Of course, Alex responded, pleased to be of help. I'm just glad I can do something useful with what I'm learning. As the massage progressed, Susan became acutely aware of each movement Alex made. His hands, skilled in a way that was both comforting and professional, began to stir a mixture of emotions inside her. Alex, maybe slow down a bit, she suggested, her voice catching slightly. Sure, Susan, Alex replied, immediately easing the pressure. His focus was on being helpful, but he couldn't help noticing the slight shift in her tone. Is the pressure okay now? He asked, his approach more cautious. The incident, though brief and seemingly inconsequential, had subtly realigned their understanding of each other's boundaries and the delicate balance of their relationship. Both were aware that things had shifted, however slightly, and that they would need to navigate this new understanding with care. Alex paused, placing the massage oil down on the table next to them. Are you okay, Susan? You seem a bit off all of a sudden. Susan sighed, feeling the weight of the moment pressing down on her. I'm not sure. This feels awkward, Alex. I didn't expect it to, but it does. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable, Alex replied quickly, his voice laced with concern. He moved to sit on the edge of the couch, maintaining a respectful distance. We can stop any time you want. I just wanted to help. Susan nodded, appreciating his sensitivity. I know you did, and you've been very professional about it. It's just that this is a lot more intimate than I expected. Maybe it's just me not used to being this close. Alex considered her words, trying to understand her perspective. I get it. It's not just a simple back massage when it's family, is it? Maybe we crossed a line without realizing it. Yeah, perhaps we did, Susan agreed, feeling a mixture of relief and disappointment at acknowledging the unspoken boundary they might have crossed. It's important we keep our relationship clear and appropriate. I value what we have, Alex, and I don't want anything to jeopardize that. Alex nodded solemnly. Me neither, Susan. Respect you too much to ever want to make you feel uneasy. Let's agree to keep things straightforward from now on. If you ever need help like this again, maybe it's best to see a professional. That sounds like a wise idea, Susan said, a small smile breaking through her initial discomfort. I really do appreciate you trying to help, though. Don't think I don't. I'm glad to hear that, Alex said, returning her smile. And if there's ever anything else you need, that's less personal, you can always ask. Susan laughed softly, the sound lightening the mood. I will, Alex, and the same goes for you. We're family, and that's what counts. We look out for each other. The conversation seemed to restore some of their usual camaraderie. So, no more massages, but if you need tutoring in any of your courses, you know who to call, Susan teased, a twinkle in her eye. Alex laughed, the tension finally dissipating. Deal. And next time you're in a bind, maybe a cup of tea and a good movie recommendation will be the way to go. Deal, Susan echoed, feeling a renewed sense of connection despite the earlier awkwardness. They had navigated a tricky situation with honesty and mutual respect, reinforcing their trust and understanding in each other. As they moved on from the conversation, both felt a sense of closure and a clearer understanding of the boundaries that would define their relationship moving forward. As they parted ways in the hallway, each headed to their own space within the house, the air was filled with unspoken words and emotions. Susan made her way to the kitchen, a place where she always felt more grounded. Pouring herself a cup of tea, she tried to calm the storm of thoughts whirling in her mind. The warmth of the cup in her hand was a small comfort against the confusion that gripped her. In the quiet of his room, Alex sat on the edge of his bed, his mind replaying the moments of the massage. He had started with the intention of helping Susan, to alleviate her pain with the skills he was learning. Yet, despite his professional approach, the physical closeness had stirred emotions that he hadn't anticipated. He worried now about whether his actions had been misconstrued, whether he had inadvertently crossed a boundary that shouldn't have been crossed. Back in the kitchen, Susan sipped her tea slowly. She thought about the many roles she had played in Alex's life over the years, from a maternal figure to a friend, and now a stepmother who needed his help in a way that was too personal, too intimate. The blend of guilt and concern for the relationship made her stomach churn. She wondered if she had been wrong to ask for his help, if her request had put him in an uncomfortable position. Alex, meanwhile, picked up his phone several times, typing out a message to Susan, only to delete it each time. He wanted to express his apologies, to make sure she knew that he respected her immensely and regretted any discomfort he might have caused. Yet, he couldn't find the words that felt right, that could convey his feelings, without possibly making the situation worse. Susan set her empty teacup down, her decision made. She would talk to Alex, clear the air, make sure that there were no lingering misunderstandings between them. It was important to her that Alex knew she valued his kindness and the mature way he handled the situation, even if it had become unexpectedly complicated. Alex finally decided to step out of his room, his resolve firm. He needed to make sure Susan understood his intentions were purely in response to her pain, nothing more. As he walked down the hall towards the kitchen, he rehearsed what he might say, each word carefully chosen to reassure and apologize. Meeting in the kitchen, where earlier they had parted under a cloud of unspoken tension, they both paused, the familiarity of the space offering a semblance of normalcy. Susan looked up as Alex entered, her expression open and understanding. Alex took a deep breath, his prepared apology ready, but Susan raised her hand gently, indicating she would speak first. Alex, I want to make sure you know how much I appreciate you trying to help me, Susan began, her voice steady. I realize now that it might have put both of us in a difficult position, and I'm sorry if it made you uncomfortable. Alex nodded,
relieved at her words but still feeling the need to express his own thoughts. "Susan, I'm glad you said that. I was worried I'd upset you. I just want to help, and I hope this doesn't change anything between us." Their conversation, honest and direct, helped bridge the gap that had formed, reaffirming their mutual respect and care for each other. As they continued to talk, the weight of the afternoon's events began to lift, paving the way for a renewed understanding and a reaffirmed commitment to their family bond. Susan placed her cup on the table, exhaling slowly as she gathered her thoughts. The conversation ahead was necessary, but she wanted to be careful with her words. She didn't want Alex to feel blamed or guilty when she was just as much a part of the situation. The last thing she wanted was to make things worse by avoiding what needed to be addressed. Alex entered the kitchen, his posture a little tense, his hands shoved into his pockets. His eyes met hers for a brief second before shifting away. "Hey," he said quietly, as if testing the waters. Susan offered a small smile, motioning for him to sit. "Hey," she responded. "I was hoping we could talk for a minute." Alex nodded, pulling out a chair. "Yeah, I think we should." He hesitated before adding, "I just don't want things to be weird." Susan sighed, folding her hands on the table. "Me neither, Alex. That's why I want to clear the air. I know that I asked you for the massage, and at first it was just about my back pain, but I think we both felt that things got complicated." Alex rubbed the back of his neck. "Yeah, I guess they did. I didn't mean for it to. I was just trying to help, but when I realized that maybe you felt uncomfortable, He trailed off, searching for the right words. "I should have stopped sooner." Susan shook her head. "No, Alex, it's not just on you. I was the one who asked for your help, and I didn't think about how close it would feel. You were professional about it, and I never want you to feel like you did something wrong." Alex looked up, a bit of relief showing in his expression. "I just kept thinking maybe I overstepped. I don't want you to feel awkward around me because of that." Susan reached across the table, resting her hand over his. "You didn't overstep, Alex. We just found ourselves in a situation that neither of us expected. And I think what's important is that we both realize that and talk about it, instead of letting it get in the way of our relationship." Alex nodded. "Yeah, I'd rather talk it out than have things feel weird between us." Susan smiled, relieved that they were on the same page. "Good. I don't want to make you feel like you can't help me if I need something, but I think we should just be a little more mindful of situations that might be too personal." "Agreed," Alex said, relaxing slightly. "And if I ever do something that makes you uncomfortable, I want you to tell me. I'd never want to make you feel that way." "I know that, Alex," Susan assured him. "You've always been thoughtful and respectful. I trust you." Alex smiled at that, the tension finally dissolving. "Thanks, Susan. I trust you too." With that, the uneasiness between them faded, replaced by a stronger understanding of each other and their boundaries. Their bond remained intact, built on trust and open communication. Susan stood up and walked to the fridge, pulling out a carton of milk as she reached for the coffee pot. She glanced over her shoulder at Alex, who was leaning back in his chair, his expression much more relaxed than it had been earlier. The weight that had settled between them seemed to have lifted, though a small part of her still wanted to make sure that everything truly felt normal again. "You know," she said, pouring coffee into 2 mugs, "we haven't watched a movie together in a while. Maybe we should put something on and just relax for a bit." Alex's face lit up slightly at the suggestion. "That actually sounds nice," he admitted. "We used to do that all the time before I left for school. What do you want to watch?" Susan slid a cup toward him and took a sip of her own before answering. "Something light, I think. Maybe one of those old comedies we used to laugh at. Alex grinned, the easygoing nature of their relationship returning. If you mean one of those cheesy 90s movies you always pick, I'm in. She chuckled, nudging his arm as she grabbed a bag of popcorn from the cabinet. Hey, those movies are classics, and don't pretend like you don't secretly love them. All right, fine, Alex admitted, standing up to help. I do, but you have to promise not to quote the entire movie while we're watching it. No promises, Susan said playfully, tossing the popcorn bag into the microwave. The hum of the machine filled the kitchen as she turned to look at him. But really, Alex, I'm glad we talked. I don't want anything to change between us. He met her gaze and nodded. Me neither. I feel like we're in a good place. And, it's nice to be home for a bit. I didn't realize how much I missed just hanging out. Susan smiled warmly. Me too. It's weird not having you around as much anymore. Alex exhaled, stretching his arms above his head. Well, I'll be around for a few more weeks before I head back. Plenty of time for cheesy movies and embarrassing stepmom quotes. She rolled her eyes but laughed, enjoying the light-heartedness that had settled between them. When the microwave beeped, she pulled out the popcorn and handed the bowl to Alex. All right, pick the movie, and don't pretend like you're not choosing one of your favorites. Alex smirked, grabbing the remote as they moved toward the living room. No promises, he echoed back at her. As they sat down on the couch, the movie starting up in the background, Susan felt a deep sense of relief. They had navigated something uncomfortable, but instead of letting it create distance, they had come out stronger, closer even. Family wasn't always easy, and relationships changed over time. But at the end of the day, what mattered most was the trust and respect they had for each other. And tonight, that was enough.